What's up, everybody? This is Vapor13 with VoiceOneArts and Damaged Ace Culture. Check them out on Facebook. Voice1 on Facebook, DAC or Damaged Ace Culture, also on Facebook. So this is the basic intro tutorial for 3D, or adding 3D to your pieces. This can even apply for just throwies or like some really simple bubbly letter kind of thing. I've basically broken it down into three categories or three methods: the box 3D, drop shadow, and point perspective. Basic differences, or what you can obviously see: the box 3D is very plain and straightforward. All of these descending lines going into space, whichever way you want to do it, they all go parallel to one another. And then the other line that closes off the figure is always parallel to its opposite as well. The second one, this drop shadow, technically what you're seeing here is this side opposite on the box 3D. So it's like you took these walls out and you're just left with the two A's. That's what your drop shadow is. You can do that by doing these same lines technically to get your points out, just to know where all these vertices can match up, and then you're just erasing all those drop lines and keeping all of these lines still parallel with their opposites respectively to the piece. And then the difference is, this is giving you a seemingly tangible form, whereas this one is giving you two-dimensional planes. And you can combine the two. You see in like 3D graffiti, the piece itself will be three-dimensional, but then it'll also have drop shadow shading behind or underneath it. That makes it look like you have this box 3D off the surface. So that's one way you can really play with these and combine them. This last one is point perspective, and the concept behind this is using a vanishing point, like in any landscape or scenery that you see in a picture or draw. Every horizon line has a vanishing point that everything kind of approaches as it descends into space or into the background. The nice thing about this is you can put the point anywhere, and the closer the point is to the piece itself, the more drastic your angles are going to change throughout the piece. And then the further away the point is, it becomes more and more like box 3D, but still has some shape or direction to like some curvature to the piece or something that the box 3D just doesn't have. The trick behind this one is just all of your drop-down lines, like in the box 3D, instead of being parallel, they all go to this same point. So for this, it's really nice to use a ruler or something if you're not on the wall and you're just sketching or in a black book. Use a ruler. It helps a lot. So I guess down here, I've drawn these U's that I've been messing with lately, and I'm just going to go through and do how I would do these 3Ds on each of these. I might speed this up, I might not. I'll cut this out if I don't. But yeah, so I'm just going to go through and draw it, and you can see how it's done. Alright, here we go. One very important thing to remember about box 3D is you're not necessarily just connecting all of these vertices after you drop these lines down. if you have parts in your piece where it breaks back in or cuts back, there's actually 3D there that you just can't see because of that cutback. Because technically you have another vertice right here that would have a drop down line. That wouldn't match up as far out as this one because this difference right here. So that difference applied right here, and that's technically where your 3D is going to go, just behind there, and that part covers it up. So that part right there is an essential way of making sure this style of 3D works the right way, or the way it needs to. So there we go. So you'd have your outline, your fill, your 3D, and you add your little trim going around it. Whatever you want to do. So this next one, the drop shadow, I like to approach it this same way. Typically, it helps get me started. So maybe just like lightly draw these outer drop down. Now, you're going to go ahead and have this side of the walls but now, instead of coming down and connecting all the way through, when this line comes up, this line parallels. So when this line comes down, only this little bit, it only needs to come down that little bit. And then the trick with this drop shadow technique is you want to match these angles as best as possible, because you're keeping these opposite lines, or these related lines, parallel all the way through. But because this is on top, you're not going to see any of this right here. But by following through, you get a really solid mimicry right there. And that's the key trick to this method, just like this vertice trick is important to this method. So you see, this part looked kind of weird with those drop downs, but once you erase all the drop downs and you just keep the outline, I'm totally fucking it up right now. I'm leaning behind the camera so I can't really see what I'm doing, but you get the gist. So that's one way. When I have letters like this A, I find it easier to just go ahead and create that parallel line to start with, and then wherever I decide to put this angle on this line, wherever I decide to do that and mimic that line there, I just follow the lines all the way around until it meets up. But if that's a little tricky for you, then you can just do it this way for a little while until you get the hang of it. Alright, so on to this last one, point perspective. You're going to pick a vanishing point. It's going to be a dot somewhere on your piece, your composition. It can be in or on your piece, or it can be out and around it, wherever you want. Just pick a dot somewhere. And when you really get to understand this style of 3D, you can strategically pick where you want that point to be. For instance, if it's closer to your piece, all your drop down lines these angles are going to vary a lot more drastically than if you have it farther away. But if you have it further away, then your 3D can go deeper before the parallels, not really parallel, but the drop-down lines run into each other. Because the closer you get to this point, all these lines are going to that point. The closer you get to it, the closer they start to touch and all that mess. So depending on what you're doing, that can be good or bad. Also, where you put it around the piece, it should go with the flow of whichever way the piece is flowing. You know, it should probably go against. I like to go against. It just kind of makes more sense because your eye follows it background and into the foreground, which in the motion of graffiti would be wherever the piece leads your eye is going to be more of like the foreground. So anyway, I'm just going to go through and show you how to drop all these down and connect it up. Alright, so whereas the trick to this one is remembering what vertices don't connect and actually kind of overlap each other. With this one, you have to remember that it's not just the vertices that are having a drop down. That's just kind of a good starting point, but technically you have an infinite number of drop down lines that follow this line all the way through. But in the box 3D, where they're all parallel literally, these are actually changing their angle as they rotate around this vanishing point. So it's not necessarily going to be the same width here as it is here, even though in reality, if this were 3D, it would still be that parallel action going on. It's just because of the angle that we're giving it with the vanishing point, it can change up. So what I do to help is sometimes I'll do a couple extra lines just right off of the bar itself, and what's nice is all of these lines are going to be the same length, and then now you have just kind of a nice average for where that line's going to go through. And there you go. Those are your three basic 3D graffiti effects. Combine them if you want. You can do the drop shadow with either point or box 3D, and that'll give you just a whole nother level of depth to the whole thing. I hope this helped. Leave any comments down below of things that I didn't mention, things that I might have said or explained wrong, or just not explained well enough at all. Follow, subscribe, share the videos, help everybody out. If you thought this was helpful, check out VoiceOne on Facebook, VoiceOneArts on Instagram, and Damaged Ace Culture on Facebook. We're doing monthly graffiti battles. Get in on that. You can go to VoiceOneArts.com, go to the battles tab, and all the information is there. Countdown and all the previous battle videos of like all the entries that we're going in, and get a feel for the competition that we're at right now. We'd like to step it up, so get involved.